So I painted up all the little bits, like the propellers. Just did the engine, the wheels, and the landing gear, struts, and a whole bunch of little stuff like that. I even weathered up the cowling. I decided to let it dry an extra day, and helped it out quite a bit, so I was able to chip that up. So now it's up to decaling. I added 3 coats of future. I thought, what the heck? Might as well get it really nice and glossy. And it is. I'm quite happy with it. And so this will prevent it from being chipped while being handled or anything else like that. So the next step is how to get weathered, chipped looking decals. And this is something I discovered by accident. But guys, I can only say this kind of once. This is something you have to do at your own risk. Because it actually is damaging the decals. And like I said, I discovered this by accident, but it does work. Use it at your own risk, okay? You might ruin your decals, you might not, especially if they're old decals. If they're old decals and prone to becoming brittle and, breaking into a million little parts, you really, really don't want to do this, okay? So you want to do this with more fresh decals. Again, sorry, use it at your own risk because it can go wrong, and in fact, for me, it might go wrong. So, one of the things I'm trying to get used to is that Airfix puts the decaling instructions on the back of the box. So, first thing I have to do is put down this one decal. That's not a lot of. There we go. So, I'm just going to put this one down. Again, thankfully, these decals are the nice cartograph variety. I am becoming a very, very big fan of cartograph. I wish more companies would use them. Let's just stick this on there. There we go. That looks good. And I need a... I had a toothpick to move things around with. I think I'll just use this. Oh, shoot. Uh-oh. Haha. I forgot a cotton swab. Hold on. Okay, that's where it fits. Looks good. Bit of silvering, but that should go away. So let's do the others here. Now, what you're going to need is your decal and your X-Acto knife. And basically, what we're going to be doing here is exactly what we just did with chipping the paint. Be very careful with this, guys. Like I said, this works, and it looks pretty good, but you're damaging the decals. So if you're one of those guys that don't like using decals and kind of stays away from them, fears them to the last minute, this might not be the thing for you to do. But all we're going to do, and let's just go here, is scratch the decal. And you know what? I need a magnifying lens. Okay, so let me just take a good look. Yeah, it looks good. There's a bit of white there. Just get rid of that. Okay, so let's cut this out. And now this is why it's difficult to do, is because like I said, we have damaged the decal. We have actually scratched off the bit of a plastic surface that the decal has. And what we could be doing here is breaking it. It's really difficult to do, but it's going to get us that nice look that we want. The other way you can do this, and again, there's really no easy way how to weather a decal. Every time you do weathering a decal, it involves risk. I've yet to see someone with some kind of method that really works well. The other way to do it is masking tape, or like Scotch tape, things like that. This is after you lay the decal on, and you just kind of put the tape over it. The decal's dried for 48 hours or so, and then you lift it up. That's hard to do in small little batches, and again, you really run the risk of just ripping off the entire decal, which would not be fun. Ah, darn it. I thought it might do that. The first layer when they do decals is white. It's white ink. And I didn't scratch it off enough. And there's white through it. So for those little bits of white, I'm just going to take my tiniest paintbrush and paint on there silver, which is actually the easiest thing to do. But sometimes when you're modeling, you can tell that it was added on afterwards, and some people don't like that. They want something a little more rugged looking. So let me just position this. 3 should be right in the middle, like that. And I'm going to actually take these clamps off because they're kind of heavy. And there we go. So I'm actually happy with that. And it won't show really well here on the camera, but that is all there is to weathering decals. It's just simply scratching them on the paper and use it at your own risk, because it may not work depending whatever decal you are using. But these Cartograph ones, they're working pretty well, but like I said, I did get through some of the white ink on there, so I'll have to touch those up and just be a little bit more careful. So that's it. I'm going to go weather the rest of the decals and decal the rest of this bird. So I don't know what to do next, but I'll know it when I get there, I guess. Okay guys, I'm back here with the decals. I'm still decaling, and I ran into a slight problem. So I thought I would demonstrate how to take care of this problem. One of the things that happens with decals sometimes is they just don't conform into the surface lines that you have, and that doesn't help when you are wanting to add a nice panel line wash on there, because what happens is, since the decals didn't conform right, it just kind of goes right over it, and to me it looks kind of funny. It's not something to get upset about, but to me it just kind of irks me, because I feel like I could have done something to prevent it. And there is a way to do it, but it is a very kind of risky thing to do. Again, playing fire with decals here, but I've seen plenty of modelers do this. I've tried it. This is actually the first time I've successfully done this. I did try it on another model, and I thought I was going to break all the decals apart, so I stopped. But I did it here on this one, and it works. And all it is very simply cutting the decals. What? Yes, so we need to take a brand new sharp hobby knife. This is all you do. And this might intimidate people that don't like working with decals. It intimidates me, and I like working with decals. So what we do is we just take our knife and score it like that. Now, all I've done with these decals right here is I applied microset, so they're stuck on here, and microsol, so they're starting to conform, but I know they're not going to, conform all the way. So let's take this. Let me just press here on this corner, just so I can see the lines a little bit more. And thankfully with the 0, these are nice and fairly straight lines that I don't have to worry a lot about. You know, there's not a lot of curves and things like that in it. Let me just go this way. And the last one. Oop. There. So all those pieces are cut, and now what do? Well, you have to apply more microsol or whatever your solvent is, and just gently apply this around like that. So why we're applying more solvent is, now that these have all been cut, the decals are going to fall into the grooves more. And so when I do a wash or something like that, it'll give it a bit of a fallen look. Now, a couple of the ones here on the fuselage, they've already fallen into the grooves, and I don't think a wash is going to really do anything, but you can see that they've fallen and they look pretty good. So I think they're pretty well set and safe to go there. But that's how you get those decals to, you know, look more conformed, like they've, again, like they're part of the panel lines. The kind of one of the only other options is, one of the other options is using a very strong solvent, but there you run the risk of damaging your paint, which can happen. It's happened to me. And one of the other ways, which is for some modelers easier, other people don't even want to bother, is masking off little circles and painting them on with an airbrush or spray can or whatever. But that's going to give me these nice lines that I want, and I'm quite happy with how they're already turning out. So I'm going to go. I thought I would just show you guys that, how to add on more flat looking decals. So I'm going to go trim this one up, and I've got more decaling to do, and you know, we're good to go. This thing's getting done. It's pretty exciting. Alright, so the first thing I gotta say here is, I know I'm gonna be saying this wrong. I'm gonna be saying P-dot tube instead of pedo tube, but it's one of those words that's just engraved in my mind at the moment, so bear with me. But that's kind of the problem with that I'm finding with the kit right now. Is here's the Tamiya 0. This is the beautiful new tooled 0, and the P-dot tube is this beautiful little piece of plastic, and it's shaped nice. It looks just like it. It's great and wonderful. And here's the Airfix tube here, and it is this big fat log of a, and I looked at this one and I thought, you know what, I don't want to have that this time. So I began coming up with alternatives, and there is an alternative. You can buy one, but it's like 10 bucks. Like, I'm not going to do that. So my alternative was to go out and buy some brass rod, and this is the stuff I found. This is 0.51 millimeter thick, so it's fairly thin stuff. There's about 5 of them in here. It costs only about a buck or two, I can't even remember. And so I have put it in my pin vise here. There's just a little bit at the tip there. So the thing to do is, it's bigger on one end and shorter on the front end. So I came up with a way how to get it shorter. I'm pretty excited to get to try this, because you can do this at home. if you have a pin vise, a drill, and a file. And let me get the drill here. This might be a bit difficult to film, but I will do my best. And I'm going to attach this in here. Let's just give this a whirl. Okay, I'm going to change the direction on it a little bit here. So I have turned my drill into a lathe. I'm pretty excited to try this out. First things first, however, I don't want any metal shards in my face, so safety goggles on. Okay, I've got my good file here, my metal file. Let's go like this, actually. I'll keep it this way. That doesn't help. Well, it was working and then I bent it. Let me just straighten this out. I guess I added a little too much pressure on there. Well, obviously I added too much pressure on there. But let's take this out. And let's see how we did. No, I can't get it out. Come on. Okay. Just down there. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I just need to straighten it out a little more, but it is thinner on this side. So I have molded it just the way I want it to. Pretty excited about that. I didn't know if it would work really well, but it actually has. So I can go ahead and make these all the while I want. And I think I'm going to maybe make another one since I got this one to work. And yeah, like I said, go make some more. So that's pretty cool. So that's my homemade lathe system for making pitot or P-dot tubes. I'm quite excited about this. So I'm going to go add this on the model. It's almost done, guys. I just glued on the landing gear and stuff and painted the cockpit, or sorry, canopy. And I'm pretty excited. That looks really cool. So, almost done. We're coming up to the home stretch here. Alright, this is the final part of the video, the final review, and I had an absolute blast getting to dig up this kit and build it again. You know, compared to the first one that I built, the second one that I built the third time was just the best. This is just such a fun kit to build, guys. I keep advertising for this kit. If you don't have one already, you know, I'm always telling people to go buy one, or when they tell me I have this one in my stash, I'm always, you know, telling them to go build it, just because it's so much fun. I love seeing this kit being built. It's an absolute, just wonderful little thing to put together from Airfix. It's just really, really great. So I'm just going to talk about one of the last things that I did on the kit, and a couple of the pros and cons and stuff like that, because there are just a few. The last thing that I did is I gave it a Enamel Wash and a layer of Future, and then I gave it a layer of Flat Clear. Now, I usually use this stuff here as a spray can. This is a lacquer TS80. This time I decided to try XF-A6. This is their little acrylic pot. And the only downside to this stuff, really, in one way, is you have to airbrush it on, and that's what I did. And I'm going to do a video comparison between these two at a later date, so you'll get to see more of a review of those two. But it works out really, really well. And so then what I finally did is I added on some dirt marks on there. This is like a gasoline trail. I had pictures of one that had, you know, something very similar to that, and then some little exhaust trails on the side, just to make it more of a dirty aircraft. And really just happy with how this one turned out. Now, this isn't like a weathered, mangy machine, you know, where it's, you know, I'd say like 65% silver and the rest is gray and green and black. They never really ever got that far. It's more of a thing that I think a lot of modelers just like to build. The only pictures I've ever seen of them being that silvered up are ones that have been sitting in the Pacific Ocean for 5 years or waiting to be scrapped, that type of thing. I've never actually seen them kind of as bad as like this. Of course, there's probably always there's always exceptions, you know, to the rule. Always circumstances where someone did have them that weathered up and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll do like a completely, you know, like I said, 65% silver aircraft of something that's crash landed. Who knows? But for now, this is how I'll do it. And getting to weather and chip this stuff off was a lot of fun. And to practice pre-shading on here, I really liked the result of that. And it was a big learning experience. It didn't turn out as well as I wanted it to. What I needed to have done is, I think, and this, if I was going to build this kit again, this is what I would do. It's what I'm going to do on another project, but is I would have used the green to make these panel lines, like this same green instead of black, and I would have thinned out the paint more. I really would have. I think that would have just gone on in better layers. I think it was just a bit too thick. Quite happy with it nonetheless, and you know, when I twist it and turn it around, I can see silvering elements in here. Like in here, I can see there's this big patch where it's kind of a silver in here, and I really like it. I'm going to, yeah, I got to talk about the decals here. The decals, cutting them up was very simple to do with a very fresh hobby knife and things like that, and I didn't have any problem cutting them up. What I should have done though is taken something blunt but sharp, you know, like a toothpick, and when I put the microsol on, is it microsol or microset? Yeah, microsol, to melt the decals, I should have just come in and just pressed in the panel lines just a little bit more. It needed it. Some of them, they did fall into the recesses, but not as much as I would have wanted. One thing that's kind of funny, I'd just like to mention about, you know, the kit, you know, talking about errors in the kit, And again, guys, they're very, very few and very, very small. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, one, the canopy needs to be a little bit taller, and there should be a metal plate here in the back. That's incredibly minor. Most people, I doubt, are going to ever notice that, or even really care. What was the other thing? Oh, the other thing, yeah, the I don't know what to call it, the propeller shaft inside the engine. That needs to be thinned down a lot more in order to get it to spin like this. And basically, I pushed it in, but I didn't push it in all the way. Had I pushed it in all the way, it would probably be stuck in here right now, and this would never spin. So, file that down. That's part. Let me see. I actually have it right here. That's part 15C. This one right here. So just file that down. It'll be a lot easier. And the other thing too is I super glued the wheels down, the landing struts rather, and let them dry thoroughly, guys, before you flip them over. They're just a bit fragile, and if you let them dry, you'll be left with a much better standing model. One of the funny things about this kit, it's kind of weird, is the old Airfix Zero is basically inaccurate on almost every level, except the drop tank. The drop tank is basically as accurate as it needs to be, and the new tooled one is basically accurate, with the exception of the drop tank is a little off. They kind of got the shape wrong on it a bit. I just think it's a bit funny that the old tool had something right and the new tool has something wrong that the old tool had right, if that makes sense. So that's about it for errors. The decals are great. They're great to use. They're from Cartograph again. One thing weird that happened with these decals is on the red lines here. I used a solvent. They conformed nicely. I was really happy with it. A couple layers of Future were underneath it and a layer was on top of it. But when I put the flat clear on, I can see the outline of the decal, of the clear film on there. I don't know why that happened, but it did. So I'll have to kind of keep an eye on that in the near future. One of the last things I would like to mention here is when I was researching this plane, and this is something that's been bugging me that I wish all companies would do, not just Airfix, but like everyone, is I was using the box for a reference, but I actually wanted to see real pictures of this particular plane to see how weathered it was and stuff like that. And then they give you the aircraft up here and the airfield that comes from its squadron and all that. But when I went to look it up, it was really hard to find any pictures or any information on it. And the only two places I was ever able to find anything, one was a picture that I thought it was this plane because I have it in a book, but the book's in Japanese, and turns out I was right. And it's a very grainy, distorted picture. It was taken while someone was flying with a low-quality camera and taking a picture of this plane. And the other one is on aviationjapan.com, and it's basically this. It basically looks just like this. It's a profile of the plane from the side, kind of flying up, and there is nothing on it. There's like no silvering except very, very minimal in areas where it would be. So it did not look like this. So my problem is not that I care what the artist painted the box art to look like. That's his own business. But the thing I would just like is if these companies could post their reference photos, because they have to be getting them from somewhere in order to build the kit and create the decals and stuff. If they could just post their reference pictures on their website, just so I can know and everyone else can know what we're supposed to be building and what it's supposed to look like. And I understand why they probably won't do it is because they probably don't want to be hit with 500 comments left and right from people accurizing their models for them, pointing out every little mistake that they've made on it. So the last thing here is the turned pitot tube. It was a great little test, and it worked out really well. I'm very, very happy with that instead of spending $10 on it. And on the other one that I have, the Pearl Harbor one, I actually ripped it off, and this is it right here. And yeah, I made a new one for it. So here's the first Zero I ever built, guys. This is the first one right here. I didn't think I was ever going to build another one, and it's really cool to see both of these guys here together and kind of seeing the full circle of this is where I started, and this is where I'm able to come at now. I had a lot of fun getting to, again, try the weathering. I've always wanted to try that, trying the pre-shading and getting the decals to conform nicer. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. I'd like to just say thanks to everyone here who has been watching along and commenting. I really do appreciate it, and I love reading your comments. Sorry this took a few days extra to get up. I ran into some troubles with my editing software, so I've got quite a few more videos to upload in the near future. So no more Zeros for this year, but I've got quite a few Zero related projects and other Japanese aircraft that I'm going to be building, as well as many more kits. So yeah, again, if you haven't got this kit, I hope you can go pick one up, because it is a really fun model to build, and I just always have a blast building it. I have 2 more on the shelf, and I'm going to be building them. So that's all I've got to say here. I think I've covered everything I wanted to, and I'm going to go now and start the next project. So thanks again, everyone, for watching. This is Rebels at Cloud9. If I haven't taught you anything, at least you've learned what not to do. I'll see you guys later.